The culture is absolutely...
The gut ain't running animal! Calling both games.
A wise man once said, when Dallas loses, America wins. If this offseason were any indication, America's the equivalent of the 72 Dolphins. The Cowboys had a cap situation to deal with and chose to solve it by deleting nearly fucking everything. If it isn't Jerry Jones to completely overreact to a situation instead of realize that they dug themselves into this whole thanks to their insatiable lust for star power. Amari Cooper is a huge cap hit with a minimal penalty, so why not trade him to Cleveland for next to nothing? I'd accept it, but they chose to re-sign a Michael Gallup coming off a torn ACL with the savings? Can't wait to see you trade him for the same return in 2 years' time. Is it any wonder why they had no success trying to trade Lyle Collins and had to cut him? What about the situation with Randy Gregory, where they tried to change the stipulations of the contract at the last moment and pissed him off so much that he fucked off to Denver? They nearly did the same goddamn thing to DeMarcus Lawrence. Thank God they managed to salvage that at the last moment. It may suck, but don't feel bad. Once again, Dallas did this to themselves. It's the only reason why they could only sign Dante Fowler as an outside free agent and re-up Leighton Vander Esch and Brian Anger. Thank the Lord they're in an awful division, or else I'd say they'd be doomed. As doomed as they are having to swallow Zeke's contract. Maybe that's what they call feeding the Zeke.
Dallas Cowboys select Tyler Smith, tackle Tulsa.
Jerry Jones couldn't get his precious Kayvon Thibodeau, so that means they have to ignore edge rusher in the first round altogether. Is Jermaine Johnson not good enough for you? I have a feeling why they picked tackle here, though. Either to replace Lyle Collins on the right-hand side or as a cheaper replacement for Tyron Smith when he's eventually cut. I mean, come on, it's a tackle named T. Smith. Even has the discipline issues the Cowboys were known for last season. It's close enough, right? As traditional as Dallas picking incredibly talented players with off-field issues. They did just that in the second round. Ironically, an edge rusher. We must keep Cowboy Nation in a state of dormancy. If they manage to become good, the fan base will never cease to shut the fuck up about them. To be fair, I don't know if they would even if they sucked. They'll claim it's a conspiracy against them or something. Sorry, Cowboys fans. If Jerry Jones still believes that Zeke should be the feature back of the team when Tony Pollard is better than him at this point in time, that's not conspiracy, that's idiocy. This year should reveal a lot about Dallas. People are getting impatient with repeated postseason failure. You know, some are already calling Dak Prescott the Black Kirk Cousins? Now that's insulting. Kirk's at least won a playoff road game. Speaking of the Vikings, Anthony Barr is here on the off chance they meet Aaron Rodgers in the playoffs again. But they have to get there first. Dallas is showing cracks in their exterior. Not just intentions, but Tyron Smith is stuck in the shop because his hamstring tore off his fucking knee. Who else is next to fall in the player ranks? They're gonna try and sneak without any timeouts again? Even with the teams that are choosing to blow it up and start from scratch, there is still plenty of intrigue with the NFC. So many teams desperate to win a championship or go far into January. And even more trying to make a name for themselves. The NFC East hasn't had a repeat champion in years. So I'm going to maintain that narrative and pick Philly to win it. The NFC North is still Green Bay's to lose, but they're slowly losing grip on their stronghold. The NFC South has a few suitors, but the Bucs are still too loaded to really fail unless they get injured to hell and back. The NFC West? Huge question mark, but I think the Rams are still the team to beat. But what about the wild cards? It's tough to choose, there are so many good options here. In this case, I'm choosing the Niners, Saints, and Vikings. Yes, the Vikings. I think people are sleeping on them. Then again, we've said this about them before, only for them to fall apart. Sorry about that, Minnesota. Finally, a game that isn't absolutely fucking bonkers to recap. Tampa Bay may not have been perfect, but their defense clamped down on Cowboys and forced them to walk the plank for 60 minutes. The media tells us that Kellen Moore is this offensive genius, yet Dallas was getting pissed on consistently. It would have been even worse if Micah Parsons wasn't doing his best Kratos impression and defying time and space itself. Words can't do it justice. It was a teabagging of the highest order. Tom Brady says he's retiring at the end of the year, but he will forever own property rent-free in Jerry Boy's mind. The Cowboys' offense was supposed to be good, maybe against the garbage of their division. Even then, I doubt that now. Dak Prescott went under the knife to repair his throwing thumb. He might be out for a few months. You remember how well it went without him in 2020? It'll be glorious for the rest of the league. Uh-oh, folks, Jerry Jones looks pissed off. Maybe one day he'll realize every problem the Cowboys have is his own damn fault. But that would require something called humility. Cincy? Are you going to get rid of this nasty hangover you've been afflicted with? Now, don't get me wrong, watching you squirm is satisfying as a division rival, but this is Dallas you're facing off against. A Dallas team starting Cooper Anal Rush at quarterback. This was supposed to be a massacre. The only thing getting massacred is your offensive line. Even in an age where they did significant things to repair it, Joe Burrow is getting destroyed. 6 sacks and endless pressures on the game, which leads me to fear he will be injured yet again. Can only take so much of a beating. So can the defense. The Cowboys have a 14-point lead when they were all but dead to rights. However, the Bengals do have weapons to play with on offense. Not many can stop Jamar Chase. Not many can stop Joe Burrow when he has time in the pocket. Zach Taylor may be doing his best to ruin everything, but the game is tied. Last season, the Bengals would put this game away and walk off with a victory. Not today. Burrow cratered under the might of the Cowboy defense, and Cooper Rush is moving the offense better than Dak did. He drove them to field goal range. How is this even a thing?
There it is, on the way! Maher's kick! It's good!
Good news, Cincy. You're the latest recipient of a humiliating AFC North loss this week. Join your brethren on the Loser-mobile. It's the only joy any of you will get. Seriously, though, how the hell did Dallas look better this week than last? Speak of the devil, it's Mike McCarthy's team in a game broadcast by Joe Buck and Troy Aikman. It's not in Dallas, but we can compromise. The Giants are trying to rebuild decaying and shattered foundations, and you can see glimpses of a better tomorrow. However, when you think they have a chance to emerge into something better over these past few years, they come up short in nearly every category. The run defense was gashed by Zeke and Tony Pollard. Evan Neal was turned into a goddamn saloon door by edge rushers all night. Kenny Golladay talks about being disrespected, yet is completely useless when he's on the field. Ref ball fucks them over at the worst possible times. Their quarterback is Daniel Jones. He's running for his life most of the game, but he's still Daniel Jones. He'll always keep you wanting more out of him. You just can't do it. That's the story of the Giants. Put up a good fight, but in the end, just can't overcome their hated rival. 17 unanswered points lead the Cowboys to victory. To make things worse, Danny had his patented deflating turnover on the final drive. And they lost Sterling Shepard. It's a shame to see. Wait a minute, how the hell is Dallas 2-1 without Dak? The relentless march of Cowboy might continues without Dak under center. Nothing has disappointed me more as an NFL fan than Washington's much ballyhooed elite defense. It's showing as much power and might as the Republican Guard did during the Gulf War. As they implode, Cooper Rush has done his job. And that is win. He's taken Dallas from the brink of despair to maintaining pace for the division lead. Not to mention the Cowboys' defense has been clamping down on their opponents. Although that's relatively easy to do with Carson Wentz turning into Mr. Hyde for most of the game. It may be too early to confirm, but Dak is apparently aiming for a return next week. Even if he doesn't, Dallas is in good hands with Cooper Rush. Imagine saying that a month ago. A soul for a soul. To be rid of the Los Angeles menace, we must suffer through another season of Dallas Cowboys insufferability. And they will be completely justified in doing so. The Cowboys not only went into so-called Rams' house, they ransacked their opponents, stripped them naked, and made them march across the stadium for hours on end. It's the only punishment worthy of not only taking over their team, but the fans taking over their stadium. Seems like the Rams' window was shorter than we expected. LA's offensive line is still complete shit. Matthew Stafford is still reverting back to Detroit form. Sean McVay still has no answers to try and fix the team's woes. Dallas didn't even need a passing game. When a team can't stop Tony Pollard, there's no reason to try and move away from that plan. It's simple, Rams. You bought a championship last season with all your moves, and now you gotta pay for it. The price is still probably worth that ring. Dallas fans sure talked a lot of shit before this week. The Eagles are frauds, they said. They'll bow down to the might of the blue and white star, they said. After this match, they'll move the goalpost by saying they were starting a backup quarterback. Yes, Cooper Rush did suck in this game, but quit sleeping on the fucking Eagles. I hate anything resembling Philadelphia, yet even I can acknowledge that this team is legit. You boys can as well. You'll inhale copium and say it's cute how you snuck back into the game, but Philly will continue to fly into the night. Do you see the bullshit happening with the Phillies? The devil magic has spread to the Eagles, and they have soared overall in the NFL, much to the chagrin of the rest of us. Talk your shit, Philly. You've more than earned the right to do so. The cavalry's here for Dallas. Dak Prescott has arrived with the Rohirrim. The sun is rising. Dak deliberately chose this week to return since the Lions' defense is like reliving horrific traumas. Unfortunately for him, it wasn't he that would be doing the terrorizing. It was the Cowboys' defense. Do you remember when Detroit had one of the best offenses in football? By driving at high speeds, they slammed right into a brick wall. Did you survive the crash? Good news, here are a pack of dogs ready to feast on your entrails. Detroit may have the lead, who cares? That so-called offense of theirs is going to be unmasked as the paper tiger they are. The Lions can crawl all the way to the goal line as their guts spill out onto the field of play. The hell didn't you challenge that, Dan? Wait a second, the rabid wolves got to him as well. They feasted on the Lions so ferociously there was nothing left but bones for the carrion birds. Some say the stench of their bodies permeated for miles. Detroit may be starting to turn on Dan Campbell, but I don't know if there's anything left to shred. Honeymoon's over, Bears. The time has come for you to get shredded feet first in an industrial grinder. You can give Justin Fields some help anytime you want, Chicago. I get he has flaws, but when he's soloing the group quest, he's bound to be sentenced to death. No matter what he did, everything around him died. The team defense couldn't stop a damn thing against the Cowboys. The offensive stars of Dallas destroyed all hope. Was Robert Quinn really that vital to this group performing? If it's not that, how about a brutal fumble which destroyed any chance of this team coming back in the second half? Giving up 49 points, regardless of how, is usually not a good sign that you're going to win a game. Dallas just rolled over their opponent like they were nothing. Perhaps someday Fields won't be killed by the team around him. It'll probably happen with another franchise, though. This is new territory for Green Bay. They must win this match. It doesn't matter if it's against a strong opponent in the Cowboys. It doesn't matter if it's against the old coach that held them back for years. The Packers need this victory if they want to maintain a chance at the postseason. Throughout the game, it's not looking good. Dallas is proving the adversary that the Lambeau faithful were fearing. Or at least they would if Dak Prescott could throw to any open receiver besides Rudy Ford. Despite Dak's sloppiness, Green Bay is generous enough to allow them to tie the game just before half. It's here where an old friend reemerges after being told to fuck off. Terrible special teams play. Amari Rodgers has more fumbles this season than he has catches. And they're still having him return punts? No wonder why Dallas is rumbling away with the game. Death was inevitable. Then we remember that Green Bay needed to expose the fraud. It'll be done thanks to Christian Watson having his breakout moment as a receiver. A Mike McCarthy team pissing away a sizable lead at Lambeau? Surely this is a first. At least the Cowboys can be saved with overtime. Or so we think. The genius of Mike McCarthy continually rolls into view. Instead of utilizing the potent rushing attack on a 3rd and short, force a sluggish Dak to chuck it and die. Absolute genius play calling and field goal range. I know Cowboys fans are going to talk about my pass interference, but how does that explain pissing away a 14-point lead? How does that explain your so-called elite defense falling apart? Green Bay does the predictable thing. It's like clockwork.
Kick is up and good! A Green Bay winner!
Mike McCarthy managed to help the Packers win a critical game. There really is a first for everything. Game of the week. Maybe in a Madden simulation. Mike McCarthy hasn't left much of his vices from Green Bay behind. This also includes his fetish of routinely humiliating inferior little brother in the Vikings. Nobody told Minnesota that medieval weaponry can't stop bullets. It was slaughter. A decimation of hope after one of the greatest wins in team history. The Cowboys' defense made sure of that, destroying Kirk Cousins in the pocket every chance they got. Tony Pollard dominating on the offensive side to slice apart Minnesota's defensive unit. Skull chants were done in mockery by Dallas, for vengeance after last week's humiliation was achieved. Once again, this was supposed to be the game of the week. How bad was it? The Vikings now have a negative point differential on the year. CBS turned away from this massacre in the third quarter. Even in Minnesota. It was a mercy killing. Now let's let the Cowboys have their way with their victims in the dark. The less said about what they're going to do to their dead bodies, the better. The Giants have been punching above their weight for a good bit. This may be the part where they finally fall back down to earth. In the wasteland of G-Men, their player core is so wrecked by injury it looks like a remake of Escape from New York. Their coaching and scheming, they'll keep it as close as they can. Dak is throwing some terrible balls in the first half. Daniel Jones lived up to his nickname of Danny Dimes, and the receiver actually caught it! The G-Men can't stop Dallas's running game whatsoever, and it's uncomfortably close for our liking, but we must return to normalcy. New York goes back to being doomers, and Dallas gets eternally overhyped by the media. Easy to do when the Giants are without a chunk of their O-line. Daniel Jones would help, but he missed some big throws. It's enough to bring Dallas to legitimacy as a unit. This is probably the best team they have on paper in at least a few years. There's a time to do something in January, here's your chance. I'll wait until then to make a judgment. The nation had to seriously witness the Indianapolis Colts play in another primetime game. We went over this in the last Monday night game. The Colts fucking suck. They're a calamity in disguise as a professional football team. The only reason why the national media isn't putting a spotlight on how shitty they are is because Washington exists. Now do you see how bad they are? The first 3 quarters of this game were a mirage of competence. Once the fourth quarter started, oh boy. I saw Building 6 of the World Trade Center implode in a slower amount of time than Indy did. It was a catastrophe. Their destruction has turned them back into the laughingstock they were a few weeks ago. Matty Ice is absolutely fucking cooked. And if that isn't painful enough, the team simply stopped trying. Dallas just had their way with them afterward. 33 points in a single quarter. This says a good bit about the Cowboys and what they can be at their peak ability. It also says a lot about Jeff Saturday's Colts. This is a team without hope. They're destroyed in all aspects. The only benefit is scoregami. For God's sake, Dallas, Indy's been dead for 10 minutes! Give their families a chance to claim the bodies! I honestly feel bad for Saturday. Dude's set up to fail. As I say this, Dallas will merely keep practicing celebrations in the Salvation Army kennel. Playing down to your competition is a time-honored tradition bestowed by more than a few coaches in the NFL. In the land that is Dallas, it's pretty standard, but this one might take the cake. Having trouble against Houston, the greatest tank ever assembled by human hands? How are you struggling with these clowns? You do realize they're putting out Jeff Driscoll on rotation, right? Their defense somehow keeps bending into a spiral. Dak Prescott is melting into fucking Greek yogurt in front of our very eyes. Know how bad it's been for them boys? The Texans have the lead. I do not exaggerate my alarm. The Texans have the lead. And Dallas can do absolutely nothing to rectify it. Houston isn't exactly playing perfect football either. It's a comedy of fuck-ups that would fit perfectly on the Three Stooges. A throwback to classic slapstick. And now for the climax. Dak hands Houston the ball and some tasty Chobani near the damn goal line. The Texans can bury them with a touchdown. Unfortunately, they remembered something.
Driscoll turns. Driscoll stopped.
Did he go the wrong way on that?
They are the tank of tanks. Winning doesn't do them much in their quest for the number 1 pick. Oh, what's that I'm hearing?
Here I come to save the day.
Wowie zowie, the Cowboys are putting together a predictable comeback drive because we can have nothing fun in this world. Oh my God, you're gonna beat the shittiest team in football! You've so earned the right to get your dicks wet.
Zeke up the middle, into the end zone for the touchdown.
Fuck you, Houston. Fuck you. I hope Bud Adams shits in your breakfast forevermore. The playoff push is reaching its final stages. Only one spot has been clinched by Philadelphia, but 4 weeks remain. Philadelphia obviously has number 1 seed, but the division is still up for grabs. Minnesota, after an ugly loss this past week, is still 2nd seed, and the NFC North is technically secured as well. The torrid pace of the Niners has them starting to run away with the West in 3rd place right now. But the NFC South is best not discussed. Tampa Bay only has it because the division is straight up awful. Meanwhile, Dallas is sitting pretty with 10 wins and first wild card. After that, it's a mosh pit. Washington and the Giants are currently tied at 7-5-1, and Seattle struggling to maintain form with an easy schedule. Detroit's creeping up though, and don't forget the rest of the garbage in the NFC South still has a chance. The picture will become clearer as time goes on. And as we all know, there's only one rule to follow.
Don't get eliminated!
Welcome to the first true test for a resurgent Jags team. Dallas is ripe for the kill after nearly blowing it against Houston. To assert yourselves in the NFL hierarchy, you must be able to not only keep pace, but stun those that defy you. So far, not happening. The Cowboys do indeed have a very potent offense, and they're showing it down in the heart of Duval. Straight up imposing their will on these poor assholes. It's looking to be an utter rout where the entirety of the Dallas Metro will be so smug it'll suffocate all of Texas. Don't blame them for it, they have a good team. In the blink of an eye, it's 27-10 in the third quarter. The parades of exposing the fraud will line Commerce Street for miles. However, they forgot one thing. Trevor Lawrence is him. Being freed from the shackles of Urban Meyer has allowed him to actually develop into a competent QB. They did get some help from Dak throwing a bad pick, but let's talk more about Trevor. He's near single-handedly driving Jacksonville back into this game. He's even gotten them the lead on 3 straight touchdown drives. Now we begin the battle. Dallas responds in kind with 6 more points to retake the game, but tension fills the air. T-Law will press the issue.
More pressure, Lawrence spins away. How did he do it? Still on his feet, inside the 40. Ball is loose and it comes out, and the Cowboys have it.
Or he'll try to do too much. Dallas can end it here, but predictably they can't. They must punt to give Lawrence another chance. And this time he'll succeed in getting them to field goal range. The mark of a true leader. Now for Riley Patterson to do his job.
Kick is up and it is good.
There's still a chance, and that's all Jacksonville needs. Never mind, Dallas's defense stuffs them on the first drive. Oh great, the Cowboys are going to escape themselves and get bailed out by high-end talent yet again. Just score that damn touchdown so I can be salty.
3rd and 4, blitz coming. Prescott throws backwards and intercepted. Jenkins has another one. Racing down the sideline. Rayshon Jenkins is going to win it.
I guess there really is a first time for everything. Gutsy. It describes Jacksonville's performance. They came back against all odds and won an improbable game. They were the ones that exposed the fraud. I'd laugh at Dallas, but that time will come when they somehow lose against the NFC South winner in January. We've had quite a lot of teams reach playoff land this week, didn't we? It doesn't mean we're anywhere close to settling how things will shake out. Philly still holds #1 seed, and can clinch their division with either a win or Dallas loss. Minnesota and San Francisco both clinched their division since there's no elite team rivaling them in division. It's only positioning they're playing for. They won't have to worry about Tampa Bay. They are ass. And their division is even more ass. Please delete it from our existence. The winner of this shit pile will probably be hosting a playoff game against the Cowboys. And we will wish for death. The other 2 wildcard spots are currently held by the Giants and Commies despite the G-Men winning last week. Seattle is falling hard while Detroit is rumbling back into the picture after being left for dead. Green Bay hangs on by a thread, and so does the rest of the NFC South. This is gonna be quite fucky, isn't it? Everyone left, you know what to say.
Don't get eliminated!
The rivalry game. A classic staple where the only thing expected out of both teams is their best. Where bragging rights are on the line. The greatest prize of any in the NFL. Philly has the divisional but locked up, but there will be a curveball thrown in. Jalen Hurts is injured. To replace him, the living embodiment of Florida man shotguns a beer on the sideline and shotguns his team to offensive drives. Gardner Minshew is that man, and he's allowing us to witness a spectacle. Jerry Jones loves his star power, and both teams are showing it in spades. A gun show where only the best weapons are on display. The Eagles flashing their offensive talent by holding a slight lead throughout, while Dallas counters every attack in kind. Philly maintains advantage in the 4th, but they start to lose sight of the prize. First offense, a game-changing interception by Florida man because Quez Watkins didn't really fight for the ball. Dallas only got a field goal out of it, but they didn't need to do all that much otherwise, because Miles Sanders somehow botched a routine toss play. The Cowboys did enough to put the game away. Like Philly in their previous matchup, Dallas wins against the opposition's backup. So they're both even now. Get in your shelters, everyone. Cowboys fans are going to be obnoxious about this one. Once again, though, merely responding in kind. I wish there really was a nuclear option. Or if Philly didn't stall out in the red zone. With a few big losses this week, the NFL playoff picture has become a mosh pit, as has been written for time eternal. The NFC East is still the same scenario as before. Winning clinch for Philly, and that includes the number 1 seed. If Dallas loses once as well, they are doomed to play as a road team in the wild card. The NFC South is still the division that should not exist, and Tampa Bay can seal it away with a win against the Panthers. If Carolina wins, though, we continue down the chaos timeline. New Orleans is still technically alive, but will need a lot to happen to win the South. With wildcards, Dallas most likely will be headed to the NFC South winner. The Giants still sit comfy, a game ahead of Washington for the second spot, with the Commies taking last seat for now. With Detroit and Seattle both losing last week, Green Bay can bullshit their way to a postseason berth with a few more things happening in their favor. But they need the Lions and Seahawks to keep losing. The Saints can also clinch a wild card, but it's an extreme long shot. But it's a shot nonetheless. And if you have that, you can still chant the rule.
Don't get eliminated!
The most predictable outcome to happen since Titanic. The Titans are being left for dead on the side of the road. Considering their piles of dead, it's quite literal. In a desperation heave to feel anything, Tennessee has handed the reins at quarterback to Josh Dobbs? That dude's still in the league? I don't know what's more depressing. That he's the last resort or that he managed to actually move the damn ball. It's better than going tits up like they usually do. Why am I even talking about this in depth? Dallas won with ease, despite perpetually playing down to competition all game. Just an overall shit Thursday night of football with sloppiness abound. Kinda hard for a team to win when they amass over 120 yards of penalties, isn't it, Titans? As Tennessee falls into a Week 18 death pit, the Cowboys are starting to put some pressure on Philly. Will it matter? Probably not, but momentum never hurt anyone. The NFC East is also somehow still up for grabs, with Philadelphia being winning clinch for the 3rd week in a row. If Dallas wins and Philly loses next week, we all die. Every other division is locked up, but number 1 seed is still up for grabs. Philly should have it, but if they lose and San Fran wins, the Niners get it. If both of them lose and Dallas wins, we all die more. Then the 7th seed. Green Bay now controls their own destiny, God help us all. If Green Bay suffers another January home loss, Seattle would have to win to get it. If both the Packers and Seahawks lose, Detroit would slingshot back to the top. It's a lot to digest, and hard to comprehend considering situations. But we must remember,
Don't get eliminated!
we can only hope this is the last game of Dan Snyder's reign of terror on the reskins. Everything that worthless rat has touched, he's completely fucked up. On-field meddling, to off-field headaches, to the damn good culture, to a fiasco with Frank Herzog not being invited to Sonny Jurgensen's jersey retirement. They were only partners in the broadcast booth for a long time, nothing crazy or anything. It's a goddamn miracle that the actual football team can do anything of note on the field of play. Or is that because the Cowboys are using this as a dress rehearsal for another hilarious postseason loss? Losing in embarrassing fashion to a team starting Sam Howell, a rookie in his first career start? How did he look infinitely better than Dak did? They can't even make the excuse that there was nothing to play for. The Cowboys looked as checked out as a team like Washington should have been. And the disturbing part is that Dallas played a team very similar to how Tampa Bay will look next week. And they have Tom Brady. If they fail, Mike McCarthy's going to turn into next year's Thanksgiving turkey. And there you have one of the sloppiest NFL seasons we've seen in a long time. Depending on how you view things, it's either thanks to a revival of defense or incredibly terrible offense. I'm on the side of the latter, but when you see a collapse of anything resembling discipline and technique, it tends to be like that. But as the playoffs await, it's time to get sappy and sentimental. I consider sports ball as a project of sorts, and it feels weird when it's over. I want to thank you for joining me for another year of this madness. And I wish you all nothing but the best. It's been 6 seasons since I started this series, and I somehow haven't lost my damn mind yet. Perhaps these playoffs will do the trick. I'll see you all for the Haters Guide. How about them Cowboys? Left for dead in week 1, they somehow survived an injury to Dak to blossom into a legit contender. Much to the chagrin of everyone not in Dallas. Normally, a team as strong as they are would be division winners, and there'd be at least 100 shots of Cherry Boy and his owner suite in the TV broadcast. However, this is not a normal year. Philadelphia ran the table for the first half of the season. This will expose every crack in their foundation. Mainly Dak, leader in direct TV commercials and interceptions on the season. Not to mention that every loss they've had this year has been on the road. They will overcome such issues with Micah Parsons screaming down the edge to kill opposing quarterbacks. On paper should be fine otherwise. Oozing with talent at the skill positions, very strong offensive line, star power that makes for good spank bank material. But they're still looking behind their shoulder at external threats. Dallas should be very careful moving forward. If they fail, there will be casualties. Jerry Jones isn't just going to send Micah screaming down the edge to kill countless servants of McCarthyism. He's going to send their limbs to the four corners of the earth. Congratulations, your team still can't make it past the second round of the playoffs. It's the greatest tradition in the NFL world. One that truly allows Dallas to earn the title of America's team. The nation celebrates when they're eliminated. Best of all, it was in a game that the Cowboys could have easily won. Their defense played valiantly throughout, but all it did was reinforce so many narratives about Dallas that you could mistake it for the 80s TV show. Predictable follies abound. Defensive players holding their ground for the offense to do whatever the hell it was pretending to attempt. Dak Prescott knew this was a legacy-defining game, yet fell apart when it mattered. Kind of like the Cowboys themselves, if you think about it. Any situation where you need your absolute best, Dallas falters. And everyone knows nothing's going to change. More of the same old things are going to keep popping up in the future, which includes the most hilarious play to end a game since Dak running a QB sneak up the middle with no timeouts. No, he's not the black Kirk Cousins. That comparison's insulting to Kirk.